Extensor retinaculum of the hand is the topic which we plan to discuss today. If you look at the extensor retinaculum, we first have to orient ourselves to the specimen given here. The thumb which is seen here helps us identify the lateral aspect of the hand. So this extends laterally and this part is what we would describe as the medial aspect. This is the dorsal aspect of the hand as a continuation of the posterior compartment of the forearm. The extensor retinaculum here is a modification of deep fascia seen on the dorsal aspect of the wrist. It extends downwards and medially and is about 3.5 centimeters long. Laterally, it is attached towards the anterior border of the radius and it extends here to get attached to the pisiform bone and the triquetral bone. Please do remember that it is not attached to the ulna. If it were attached to the ulna, it would be difficult for pronation. Now this retinaculum sends in small septae deepwards which go on to form osseofacial compartments. The first osseofacial compartment is what you see here, is formed by the tendons passing, which are the abductor pollicis longus and the extensor pollicis brevis. The second compartment is formed by the extensor carpi radialis longus and the extensor carpi radialis brevis. The third osseofacial compartment allows for passage of the extensor pollicis longus tendon. The fourth osseofacial compartment consists of the extensor digitorum and the extensor indicis. The posterior interosseous nerve, which is considered as the nerve of the posterior compartment of forearm, passes along with the tendons of extensor digitorum and the extensor indicis to reach the fourth compartment, and under cover of this it terminates by forming a pseudoganglion. The fifth compartment allows for passage of the extensor digiti minimi, while the sixth compartment allows for passage of the extensor carpi ulnaris. So from lateral to medial it is divided into 6 osseofacial tunnels. The abductor pollicis longus and extensor pollicis brevis passes through tunnel 1. The extensor carpi radialis longus and brevis together pass through tunnel 2. The extensor pollicis longus passes through tunnel 3. Through tunnel 4 we have extensor digitorum and the extensor indicis along with the posterior interosseous nerve. Through tunnel 5 we have the extensor digiti minimi, and through tunnel 6 the extensor carpi ulnaris. This region becomes incomplete if we don't talk about the region called as the anatomical snuff box. The anatomical snuff box is a structure bounded laterally by the abductor pollicis longus and the extensor pollicis brevis tendon, which passes through the fourth compartment, medially by the tendon of the extensor pollicis longus. So you can see the extensor pollicis longus here. This region is what we call as the anatomical snuff box. Its floor is formed by the lower end of the radius, the styloid process, the scaphoid and the trapezium, and the lower end of the first metacarpal bone. So they go on to form the floor. In the roof you see the presence of the superficial branch of the radial nerve, which goes on to supply the dorsum of the hand. The cephalic vein is also formed along the roof from the lateral end of the dorsal venous arch. The content here is the radial artery, which passes on here and passes between the two heads of the first dorsal introssi and reaches the palmar aspect of the hand. So this region you will have to learn to identify the extensor retinaculum and the anatomical snuff box. So what is the function of this extensor retinaculum? It keeps all the tendons in position and prevents bowstringing of the tendons during contraction. What is the clinical significance of the anatomical snuff box? Whenever you fall on an outstretched hand and there is a possibility of a fracture scaphoid, the tenderness for this is palpated in this region even if you can't detect a fracture line in a radiograph. So that would complete the extensor retinaculum and the anatomical snuff box. Thank you.